Hello everybody, this is Mr. Storm and I'm going to walk you through how to use image manipulation software. Specifically, we're going to be using software that you can find for free online. And it's pretty easy to use. It's called Pixlr. If you go to pixlr.com, you'll get this page. You can scroll down and you can launch the web app for Pixlr Editor. You don't want to use Express because it has fewer options and it's not really what we need. So you'll be presented with this menu. You can create a new image, open an image from your computer, open an image from the internet or from your library, from Pixlr, Facebook, or any other open source image library. We're going to just create a new image so we can get familiar with what we're doing. I'm going to call this demo. Oh, capitalize my D there. And we have options for presets, how big we want our image to be. We can do all kinds of stuff, banner, leaderboard, skyscraper, whatnot. I'm going to choose, I'll just choose 1024 by 768, which is standard high definition. And that's good there. I'm also going to set transparency. You don't really have to, but yeah, I'll leave it there. Why not? All that does is it says this first layer that we're going to create, does it have an alpha channel? Meaning, is it allowed, is it able to be transparent if I want it to be? So we're going to cover it all up anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I'm going to make my work window just a little bigger. Okay. So now we have this program that actually, if you're familiar with Photoshop, this actually looks pretty close to what Photoshop looks like. So I'm going to just give you a quick tour. Up here we have our, I guess our file or toolbar. Nah, not really a toolbar, but just options, right? We have all kinds of options up here. File, edit, image, to do image changes or change, the canvas size or the image size, things like that. We have layer, so we can manage the layer, which if you don't know what layers are, we'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. Adjustments, so we can make adjustments, color adjustments to the specific layer that we have selected. We have filters where we can apply somewhat of an effect on the image that we're messing with or on the layer. We can change our view, change our language, get some help, but you don't need help because you're watching this video. Here we have our tool sensitive menu. Right here we have our tool sensitive menu. So depending on the tool that I have selected currently, these options will change. So right now I have my crop tool, and so now I have crop tool options. I can grab my move tool and it has no additional options. My select tool, now I can change options such as, whether or not I am selecting an ellipse or selecting a rectangle. I can change the feathering or the width, height, whatever. My lasso tool, my magic wand, all these have different options that you can change. Pencil, brush, whatever. So since we're talking about tools, let's look at the toolbox. So again, crop, move, selection tool, lasso. We have our magic wand. We have pencil, brush, eraser, paint bucket. We have our gradient tool. Oh, look, and my tool tips are popping up. Clone stamp tool, color replace tool, drawing tool, blur tool, sharpen tool, smudge, sponge, dodge, burn, red eye, spot heal, bloat, pinch, color picker, type, hand, and zoom. So you may be familiar with some of these tools, especially if you, here I'm actually just going to go deselect all. You may be familiar with these tools, especially if you've done any kind of image manipulation before. If you've ever used Photoshop, these tools should be familiar to you. I'm going to go ahead and mess around with this document. I'm going to pick the gradient tool. I'm going to choose a fun gradient. Let's do a pink gradient. Oh, that looks awesome. Okay, we'll do pink. We're going to make it a linear gradient, and I want my spread to be a pad spread and just normal. And I'm going to drag from one corner to another. to put a nice pink gradient as a background. And then I'm going to grab my brush, and I'm going to show you how to pick. You have different brush tips that you can choose. I've got this cool starburst effect, or just a regular circle, or square, or I can just choose more, and it'll bring up options here. So nature, animal tracks, right? And I can choose, ooh, I want to do, a dog paw print, or I want clouds, and it'll pull up clouds, or, let's say I want to do shapes, and I don't know what Atlantis is. Oh, cool, like alien symbols. I've never seen these before. Oh, that's fantastic. I'm going to grab one of these because that looks pretty sick. Oh, I want this maze thing. So I'm going to add this whole pack onto my brush tool set. I'm going to click add, and it'll add all these options, and I can choose any of them I want. Oh, that's cool. I can change the diameter of the brush. I can change how it's spaced. But I'm just going to kind of leave it. And then in order to get out of this menu, you just click outside of it. And so now I have this cool looking brush. Now, if I go ahead and click, it's going to place a shape right there. But if you look down here in my color, I have black selected, and black on pink. Let's choose something new. So I can choose a new color by clicking on that big box, and I get my color selector menu. Color selector is awesome because in HSL, for hue, saturation, and I blanked on it. Sorry. It's Saturday morning. I don't quite know what I'm looking at. Whatever. But HSL, we have a color wheel, essentially, which will help us with our color palette, choosing color palettes that are either complementary or in harmony, whatever color we're deciding to do for this document, right? So I'm just going to choose, I'm going to do a harmonious, so I'll choose this nice purple for some of these alien symbols, and I can change anything I want about it. I'm actually going to make it just a little lighter. And then click OK. And so now I have this purple. I can put these purple shapes anywhere I want. And I can actually click and drag to do a cool, like, streak effect, right? Whatever I want to do. Okay, and I can change all of my options about it. I want to actually change it, make it a little bit smaller, right? So I can put smaller ones of these. I can change the different brush. I can add a different brush here. Oh, that's cool. So like an alien thing, whatever. Let's see. I mean, so there's all kinds of things you can do with brushes, creating patterns. What about shapes? Let's talk about shapes. So we have some shape options here. I have a full rectangle. I have a rounded rectangle. So is that one? Yeah, rounded rectangle, which has rounded edges. I have an ellipse and just a line, right? Let's choose a rounded rectangle. Now here I can see that I have a normal mode radius. There it is, radius. So radius will determine how rounded my corners are, right? So I'll just go like 30. I don't even know what that's going to look like, but we'll see. And then here, instead of choosing, because I'm not using my brush anymore, I'm on my shape tool, instead of this dictating what color my shape is, up here I have an option called fill shape. So up here is where I would select what my fill shape is. And I'm going to choose actually a blue, right? Pretty vibrant blue. And then I can change my border size as well. I can change the size of my border. Now, my border is going to be what this color represents. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my rounded shape down here. So now I have that purple border, rounded corners, and the blue inside. Okay. And I can do things like I can change so that there is no fill shape. I can make this, black. And then I can go ahead and just create just a black circle, right? Or I can change my border size to make it nice and thick. And well, let's make it 50. Why not? And create a thick black line, right? Now notice that I've been doing all of this on layer 0, meaning all this stuff is on one layer. Now if I wanted to like move this shape, I couldn't, because it's kind of like a paint canvas. Like as soon as I slap the paint down there, it's there. I can't move it. I've been kind of messing around. So I better be happy with this, because this is oh, wait a second. Hold on, what was that? Yes, we forgot about our history. So check this out. I have my history here, which means I can go back to everything that I've done. I can click here and just go back in time to a certain point in my document. Okay? Maybe I like that thing there, and I like that thing there, but I don't like this smudgy thing, right? I can go back here, and if I click this point in history, and I do anything else, right? Like create a circle here, it erases everything that I've done and replaces it. It's like going back in time and changing history, right? So I'm going to just go ahead and grab another brush and just kind of make this look, I don't know, a little bit cool. Let's grab my brush tool and we'll grab this and we'll do like a cool maze here, and then we'll make it, you know, this purple color again, and I'll put a cool maze there. All right, sweet. So now I have this weird looking, you know, artsy background. It's not the best, but I just kind of threw it together. Let's talk about how we can manipulate this layer itself. So I have my adjustments up here. Adjustments are great because I can do color changes to the entire layer itself, right? I can make it sepia tone with just one click. I don't want to do that because that looks weird. I can do, actually, let's go back one on our history. I can go to curves, which is fun because with curves, I can change the color profile just by kind of bending these things here and just kind of seeing what happens, right? That's pretty fun. Adjustment, let's see. What's one I want to do? Old photo, so it kind of fades it out, right? But there's still a little bit of color. It's not all the way black and white. Invert. Invert's fun. Ooh, it just basically inverts the color. If we look at the color wheel, the opposite of that pinkish purple color here is that green. So we just inverted the colors so that it went from pinkish purple to that green, which is kind of cool. I'm going to keep the green because I like it a little better. And it's kind of playing weird, funky tricks with my eyeballs. Let's see. We can do auto levels, which will try to automatically level out my color. Brightness and contrast. I can, you know, add more contrast to the picture or decontrast it, I guess. Make it brighter or darker as I see fit. Okay. So the adjustments is a really helpful tool for color adjustments. Let's go into filter though, because filter is where it gets real fun. With filter, you have all these options that you can play with to kind of just give it a quick effect and give it a really quick visual change. So let's do something like, let's do art poster. And so what it does is it kind of breaks down the colors for art poster. It kind of breaks down the colors and just kind of gives it this cool artsy looking effect. I'm going to, you know, we can inverse it. No, I don't want to do that. This is not a good example for art poster. Let's see. Let's find another filter that looks good. Scan lines, maybe? Ooh, cool. So we have those scan lines like on like old TV sets. That's kind of cool. Let's do pixelate. Pixelate's fun. We can pixelize our picture. Cool. Water swirl. Ooh, looks like it's underwater. That's cool, right? Wub, 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 wub. Okay. So there's all kinds of cool stuff we can do. Polar coordinates, kaleidoscope. Kaleidoscope's fun and trippy as heck. Look at that. Bwong, bwong, bwong. cool. I'm going to keep that because that's a cool looking background now. I just did that on accident, just playing around, and now that looks awesome. So now I have a cool looking background. I want to bring something else in on a different layer. The way layers work are essentially like this. You have, think about it like it's a transparency, right? You have a just a piece of paper, a blank, a colored piece of paper, and then you place a transparency, like in those old school classrooms where you'd have the overhead projector. You place a transparency on top, and that transparency has something drawn on it. Whenever you place that on top of the colored piece of paper, it's going to look like they exist in the same 2D space, when really one is on top of the other, right? And we can make changes to one without affecting the other. That's the great thing about layers. So now I have my layer 0. I want to add a new layer. So I'm actually going to search for, let's see, let's do like music, girl, no background. That's easier to spell. No background. And usually if you search for like no background stuff, you'll find PNGs. So like this one, we'll grab this one, right? Click, save image as, and we'll put it on my photos here, and we'll go back to my online editor. Now I can go File, and notice I have Open Image URL, Open Image Library. What I want to do, instead of opening my image here, which would replace what I already have in my document, I want to go over to Layer, and I want to do Open Image As Layer, right? Open Image As Layer, which will bring up my Images menu. And I've got to find, oh, there she is, right there. I find her, click Open. Now I have this image as a new layer. Look, I have Layer 1, Layer 0. And because she's a transparency, she is, I can move her around, put her wherever I want, and she's not going to affect this Layer 0. Okay, so with Layer 1, I can go ahead and scale her up. Let's edit, free transform. And I can scale her up. Now, oh, notice how she's stretching and changing as I'm doing this. There's a handy tip here. If you hold the Shift button while you're changing, it'll respect aspect ratio. Now, she's getting kind of pixelated as I scale her up, so this isn't probably the best picture to use, but it at least, yes, it at least highlights my point that you can change things and modify layers and whatnot. I just kind of threw her right there. You can do anything you want with layers. I can have all kinds of effects on as many different layers as I want. And then those, let's say, my filter was only applied to my 0 layer, so it didn't do anything to my layer 1. Now with layer 1 selected, I can apply a new filter to her, so I can, get a cool effect, and it doesn't affect my background, right? That doesn't really look good, so I'm not going to apply it. But you get what I'm saying. I can also apply adjustments to her as well, and it doesn't affect my background at all. So I'm going to make her, match the background a little bit. Or maybe I want her to stand out, so I want her to be more red, because I want to give her that cool, that pinkish thing to give a contrast, right? So there's all kinds of things you can do. I know this looks really ugly. I just kind of threw it together. My advice is to play around with layers, play around with all the options you have here. We'll go into depth on some of these things in other assignments, but this video is getting kind of long, so I don't want to spend too much time messing with it right now. Just get in there and play with it. You really can't make mistakes because, honestly, the more time you spend in a specific program, whether it be Pixlr or Photoshop or whatever, the more experience you gain with that program, the better you'll be at producing things that you want later on. So I would just practice, come up with ideas, see what you can put together, And it's really fun because we're creating new things and we're making the world a little bit more of a better place every single time we put together something that's interesting or cool or funny. So go be a creator. Go make new things. Go have fun. That's it for me. Thanks for watching. See you guys in class.